let's talk about Europe. It's amazing what I've witnessed in the Oval Office there between Zelensky and Trump and Vance. And it's quite amazing to see Marco Rubio sitting there thinking that he was misled. He thought there is a deal. There was a whole ceremony waiting outside with some luncheon and declaration and signing and all of that, and everything exploded right there before him. And I don't think there's a point for me to give you my opinion, because let me explain why. We have to be very careful. First of all, you need to understand that throughout history, every country, especially when it comes to superpowers, always took care of its own interests. Okay? And we see the Russians taking care of their interests, the Chinese taking care of their interests, the Canadians, everyone is taking care of their own interests. Even the Europeans are taking care of their own interests. And I think that when somebody is elected on the platform of taking care of American interests, you cannot blame him when he is doing what he was elected for. But I will tell you that eventually Bible prophecy, and I love to quote what Reverend Clarence Larkin, an American Baptist reverend who was there in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, what he said. He said, Bible prophecy has nothing to say about the nations as such in their affairs with one another, but rather in their relations to Israel, the people, and the land. And Clarence Larkin then went on to quote from Deuteronomy 32, verses 8 to 9, and he says, when the Most High divided their inheritance to the nations, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the place of his inheritance. So when you look into Bible prophecy, when you are a believer that wants to understand how everything that goes on fits into the Bible, I want you to understand, yes, there are a lot of conflicts between countries, interests, and power struggles. Russia and China, and what Trump is trying to do is break the axis of Iran, China, and Russia, and move Russia to another part, and therefore he can actually use Russia to now promote something completely different. I mean, everyone has his own endgame. But when it comes to Bible prophecy, the question you need to ask yourself is, where is Israel in this picture? Because Bible prophecy is not about nations and their own struggles between each other. It's how it affects the people whom he put right here in the heart of the Middle East. And when it comes to that, I want to remind you that according to the prophet Ezekiel in chapter 38, Israel will have to be safe, secure, and prosperous, and then a big war is going to come, led by Russia, and it will be joined by Iran, Persia, Turkey, Gomer and Togarmah, Libya, and Sudan. And this will be such a devastating attack. It will be so powerful that only God will have to step in and intervene and win this in a supernatural way, because there's no way Israel is going to be able. And at the same time, we also see that Europe is protesting, the Arabian Peninsula is protesting, America may be protesting, but no one is going to come and help Israel physically. And by the way, everything that is going on right now between the Zelensky regime and Trump and America and Russia, all of that is exposing Europe in ways that they have not been since World War II. NATO may even collapse very soon. America is imposing tariffs on European goods. We're talking about halting all military aid to Ukraine. I mean, today we just learned about that. We are talking about something big. And we're seeing that the Europeans themselves met in London Right after the meeting in the Oval Office, Zelensky boarded his plane and went all the way to London, where he met with European leaders, and they called it a once-in-a-generation moment for the security picture of the continent. And the Europeans, on one hand, want to show a show of force and unity, but on the other hand, they understand they can do nothing without America. America is consisting almost 80% of NATO's budget. Europe is heavily relying on NATO for its own defense. Europe will have to start from scratch to build their own military forces because they were weak, they were small, because everybody relied on NATO. If America pulls out of NATO, if America stops funding NATO, Europe cannot, in the very short run, do anything. And that's why they're telling Zelensky, you have to make amends with Trump because he's still the most powerful person right now. But I want to tell you something. The Europeans are confused and they're embarrassed with all that is going on, but more so they're vulnerable, they're fearful, and they are looking and seeking for a new leader of the free world. That's at least some of them were quoted over the weekend. And I want to remind you, and I said that yesterday on the Q&A with Pastor Barry, I want to remind you that on one hand, from Western Europe, the Antichrist, according to Daniel 9, is going to rise. On the other hand, there is the Ezekiel war that has to happen before. And these two, the war where America will not be there for Israel, and the rise of the Antichrist from Western Europe, because America is not going to be there as a superpower anymore, both have to happen when America has declined. Something is going to happen. And I want to believe, and I want to pray, and I want to hope that it's not going to be an implosion due to some bad things, but I want to believe that it's going to be because of the rapture, because America is going to be more affected by the rapture than any other country on planet Earth when it comes to number of born-again believers that are holding positions in military, government, and in law enforcement. It's quite amazing to see all of that. In fact, speaking about that, even Elon Musk agreed that it's time for the U.S. to leave NATO and the UN. I mean, somebody tweeted that and he said, I agree. Now, Elon Musk may be the leader of X and of all of his other companies, but right now he's holding governmental positions. He is now a frequent visitor to the Oval Office. Mar-a-Lago is where he lives for the rest of the week. And just so you understand, when he agrees with something like that, it's something that some even suggest. I'm not saying that, but I heard some rumors that later on today in the State of the Union address, some even say that who knows, maybe Trump will announce something big in regards to NATO or the UN. I'm not sure, but if it's going to happen, I'm not going to be surprised if one of his key people in his own administration is agreeing with such a thing. We live in historic times, amazing times. I don't know if you understand how close we are, how biblical everything that we go through is, and how important it is more than ever before to be right with the Lord, to be eagerly waiting for his return.